Good afternoon. Okay, we've got a little feedback first. My name is Patricia Gerling, and on behalf of our Brazos Valley Gives team and our two co-chairs, Julie Porter and Molly Watson, we want to thank you for joining us today for the first of 4 different Zoom webinars that we are going to be hosting for Brazos Valley Gives. This is our goal of helping you as a participating nonprofit develop your story in your giving campaign, and there will be lots of information about social media, telling your story, as well as our peer-to-peer fundraising and matching funds. So stay tuned. I am very pleased to hand the program over to Fallon Appleton, KBTX weekend anchor and reporter for the Brazos Valley this morning. Fallon has generously agreed to kind of be a part of our marketing consultant group here with our Brazos Valley Gives team. She's a remarkable woman and has some great ideas. She's firsthand knowledge as far as helping interview people and helping tell the story for KBTX. So this webinar today is being presented by KBTX Media, and we're glad to have Fallon join us. So Fallon, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share with y'all my screen. If you would let me.
You should be able to.
Oh, it says host disabled screen sharing.
Hang tight.
Give us 1 second. Okay. Let me see here. All right, so today we're going to talk, like Patricia said, about telling your nonprofit story. So one of my favorite things to do when I go out in the community and talk to people is hearing their story. If any of y'all have ever talked with me, I will probably ask you enough questions until I kind of dig down deep with you and kind of discover your passion and find out the reason for why you're here, why, if you're a business, why you decided to open up, just really kind of getting to find out who you are, because those are the elements that I feel really connect best with people who are watching at home, because they're looking for that human element. And that's kind of what we're really going to talk about here today with really telling your story. So like all stories, we'll start here with the table of contents. And before we go through everything, we'll go through those important dates, why it's important for people to tell their story, kind of talk about that human element, how they should do it, and being yourself. And then we'll have some exciting announcements as well with Brazos Valley Gives. So before we begin, here are just some important dates we want everyone to make sure that they have on their calendar in regards to Brazos Valley Gives. So on October 1st, it is the early giving day, and that's when it all begins. So make sure you're telling your donors starting on October 1st, they can go online to brazosvalleygives.org and start their giving on the website. Then on October 27th, that is the big day, starting from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. That's when all of those donations, and that's when all the magic happens for all of this wonderful day of giving. Then on the week of November 16th, that's going to be the Brazos Valley Gives post celebration. There's not a day exactly there yet, but we're going to have one here soon, and that's when some of the prizes will be given out there as well. So as Patricia wonderfully introduced me, I want to introduce all of the wonderful women who are here getting this day all started. So we have Molly Watson, who's a Brazos Valley Gives co-chair in marketing communications. Patricia, who was talking earlier, she's with the Community Foundation president and CEO, and Julie Porter, who is the Brazos Valley co-chair, Brazos Valley Gives co-chair. So let's go into the why. So the work that you all do is so important. And why with this work being so important, you also need to tell us a little bit about who you are. So while we're still talking a little bit about introductions, I want to talk further about who I am so y'all kind of get an idea of a little bit about me. So like Patricia said, I am the weekend anchor and morning reporter for KBTX, and I have lived here in the Bryan College Station area for 7 years now. I can't believe it. I moved here in 2013 to get both my degrees here at Texas A&M. I'm originally from Fort Worth, Texas, and one kind of quick little fun fact about me, I'm a dual citizen from the United States and Australia. My dad came over here to rodeo professionally, and he has been in the United States ever since. So that's kind of a little bit about me besides what y'all see here on camera. So let's kind of turn back to this importance of storytelling. So the human impact moment is so important, and giving people that ability to connect and put a face to the work that you're doing is so crucial. When you put a face to what you're doing, it gives your audience the ability to connect. So there's different kinds of faces that you can use when you're telling this story. You can talk about use your donors, you can use your beneficiaries, you can use your staff, and you can also use your volunteers, which we'll dive into kind of how those elements play in a little bit later. But it also gives the ability to educate new viewers. And what is awesome about Brazos Valley Gives Day is that we're going to be talking about all of these people and all of these different nonprofits and getting to open that up to new people who have never heard about it. I remember on my first day with Brazos Valley Gives, I learned about so many nonprofits that I had never heard of before. And it was just such a great way for me to learn about the different work that so many groups were doing. And that's going to be the same way this year for so many people in our community as well. So how do you go about that? You need to do it in a way where you are speaking to be understood. So let's think about it kind of in a news perspective, because that's the most I'm familiar with. So most of y'all at some point turn on the 6 o'clock news when you get home, but when you turn it on, I'm not going to be offended, but you're probably half listening. You're coming in, you're cooking dinner with your family, you're talking to your kids, you're playing with your dog. That's what I'm honestly doing. Or you're just doing all these different things. You're probably not really listening to the anchors on the desk. I love them to death, but you're probably just not fully listening to them. So it takes that one kind of spark for us to say, hey, you gotta take a look at this. Here, they're running out of Peeps for the rest of the year. That was a story I talked about this past weekend. They're not gonna make Peeps until Easter. You maybe want to pay attention if Peeps are your favorite kind of candy. So you got to make a way for when people are busy to catch their attention. If they're scrolling on social media, you want to have an interesting video, an interesting graphic, an interesting caption that stops that scrolling from happening, because no matter what that medium is, people are going to be busy and you have to find a way to really catch their attention. So next kind of goes in with using that simple language. So if I walk into a room and coming into an interview with somebody, I'm not going to walk in and say, all right, I need to film a package of OSOD and need some B-roll. All right, let's get going. Because most of y'all are like, excuse me, what did she just say? Basically, what all that kind of boils down to is saying, I need to come in and film an interview with a couple of people. I need to get some recordings of some video and things like that. Even though that's the common terminology in my field, it doesn't really translate to everyone else. So that's why it's important to drop that simple language, because dropping that complicated language, even though it's common terminology in your field, getting rid of that makes it easier for people to draw that connection. And instead replacing those complicated theories with short and simple sentences and action verbs, because people are able to easily digest that. And next comes in with that is being clear and direct, making it understandable for people to know why they should care. They should be able to take your story, hear all of the different elements, walk away with knowing why they should care. So kind of taking something as in like, people here in BCS are hungry. Short, simple, easily digestible. Not saying kind of a bad example with people in BCS are hungry 5 days a week and they're suffering and living under a bridge. That's a lot thrown at them at one time. They don't really know kind of what their call to action is. They're overwhelmed by something like that. So, and keeping with it kind of how to tell this story, you want to be prepared, but you don't want to come off as scripted. I'm going to grab my notebook real quick. So if I was to hold my notebook right here and just start reading it like this, y'all would immediately start to tune out, just like that. I mean, I would. So that's important when you're going through this, is you don't want to have a script ready to go. So when you're going into these interviews, you don't just gloss over and you just know those memorized sound bites. I get it. When you're reporters, anyone in the media, we're scary people because you don't know which questions are coming. And once we walk away from those interviews, you don't really know what's going to come out of that interview. So you want to still read up, know your material, know exactly what you're going to say. You want to know what your pivot points are, but you don't want to be so prepared that you lose that human element. You lose that personality side of yourself, because that human interest factor, what makes you as a nonprofit, is what's going to connect with the people at home. That's what's going to sell you. That's what's going to connect with the people who are watching you at home. And what also adds to that are visual elements. It takes your interview from here to here if you have a visual. Like if you're talking about Coca-Cola, which I have in this cup right here, it's my vice in the afternoon since I wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning. If I'm talking about Coca-Cola, I may have a Coca-Cola right here with me. Those visual elements really kind of help you move forward and kind of give some people another connection point. So moving with that is you want to have a central message and stay with it. I know we've kind of talked about the importance of having that message, but you still want to make sure that people are walking away with that message, no matter what your presentation medium is. They have a graphic, they have a video, they have a sound bite. They hear each of that each time, and they still know what you're communicating with them, even though you're telling a story. And I want to reiterate it again. Don't bring a script with you. Even though if you're nervous, I get it. I still get nervous presenting, and I still get nervous every time I get on the desk. You still just want to make sure that you bring your knowledge and you still bring what you're passionate about. Let that passion show through, and that's what's really going to connect with people. So sticking with the idea of being yourself, there are key components of your story. And an example that I like to use is, we all know the story of Cinderella. There are several key characters with this. And so you want to think of your nonprofit as a storybook. You have your main characters. So drawing with the example of Cinderella, you have Cinderella, you have the prince, you have the fairy godmother, and you also have the evil stepsisters. Next, you want to think about that impact moment. And that's when Cinderella meets with the fairy godmother. And that's that big moment for her, because she's down in her luck, doesn't know really what's going to happen with her. And then the connection is when the audience takes that and finds something relatable with them. It's what draws them in. It's what they can take away and walk away with your story from. And in regards to Cinderella, it's when she is able to marry the prince and live happily ever after, because she knows that her life is more than just being the maid to her evil stepsisters. So with that, we also need to make sure that your story answers some essential questions. In news, we have a series of questions that we make sure that our stories always answer. And it's who, what, when, where, why, and how. Once again, I'll just repeat them because I talk fast and I apologize for that. If I need to repeat anything, feel free to speak up. Those essential questions are who, what, when, where, why, and how. You always want to make sure your stories or your sound bites, interviews are always kind of answering those questions. Next, let's talk a little bit about how you're going to be delivering and sharing that story. So posting updates on social media and using that to your advantage is really important. And the great thing about social media is that you can share content, share videos constantly. And one platform and resource I love to use is Canva. I actually made this PowerPoint on Canva. I've been using Canva for several years, and I have a really good friend that works for them, and she was saying that, Canva Pro is actually a free resource that nonprofits can use. And we have a link to Canva Pro on the Brazos Valley Gives resource page where you can go and see that for yourself. You have several different ways that you can utilize this resource too. You can make presentations like I have today. You can go in and make social media graphics. You can make invitations. Honestly, there's so many ways you can use this resource to your advantage to make such clean, powerful, just really great graphics. I cannot recommend it enough. And then you can go on also to the giving profile on the Brazos Valley Gives website and go through there and update your story there, because especially on Brazos Valley Gives Day and leading up to that, people are going to go through there and start reading about these different nonprofits too. So we really encourage people to go in there and make your story on your Brazos Valley Gives profile really kind of personal there too, because if someone says, well, I just want to donate to nonprofits who have an involvement with animals, they'll just type in animals, and any nonprofit that's associated with animals is going to pop up there as well. So next, another way you can share your story is reaching out to local media outlets. The one thing that I really encourage people not to do is calling their local media outlet just one time. As y'all know, news cycles change every single day. We're bombarded with all these things every single day, and just calling one time to tell about your event honestly isn't enough. Make sure you're calling and keeping us all updated, because we all get busy, and it's not just because we don't care about you, it's just because lots of things are happening. So I've put the KBTX newsroom email. This email emails every single reporter and person on the newsroom at KBTX. I highly recommend utilizing this email. And also here is the KBTX phone number. You can call that. It rings every single phone in the newsroom. They are great. Now also, it's great to keep the conversation going. Find a contact person with these media outlets that you can go to. I'm happy to be that person for you, but also you can find another person within our newsroom, within any other media outlets as well, to be that person. A great example I think of every time when I think about this is Kathleen Whitty. She's on the board of directors for the Salvation Army, and she is a constant advocate for everything that's going on with the Salvation Army. And even if this reporter isn't on your board or isn't involved exactly within your nonprofit, it's still great to reach out and form those relationships so that person can be your advocate, and you can have that one point person that you're constantly calling and keeping up to date. So speaking of things, before I jump the slide to this next one, another great way that we're specifically going to be sharing your story with Brazos Valley Gives and with KBTX is through a specific This Is Your News. And if you're not familiar with This Is Your News, I have got an example for you, which I will play right now. Hopefully you can hear it. Let me pause it really quick. Y'all are all probably familiar with this. Let me see if my volume will play. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Sorry, here we go.
Working together, loving our own. From country roads to our city streets, it's the neighbors we love and the new ones we meet. KBTX, the very best we can give. We're here when you need us, here where you live, seeing life the way that you choose. News 3, this is your news. KBTX, it's the time that we share. It's for you, it's for me. People who care. Brazos Valley, this is for you. News 3, this is your news.
All right, now if you couldn't hear that This Is Your News video, it always ends with the, I'm sorry, I'm gonna sing this part. I forgive you all now, but it's the, this is your news. Whoa, yeah, I can't, I'm so bad, so sorry. Okay, anyways, so This Is Your News, we're gonna do a specific one for Brazos Valley Gives edition, and it's just gonna be for all of the nonprofits. So you don't need a fancy news crew to come in and do this. You can do all of this right here on your smartphone. So the best way for you all to do this, and the way we extremely recommend people to do this, is film all your footage just like this. Do not film it like this. It'll just kind of make the quality not be as great. We recommend all the videos to be filmed just like this in the horizontal orientation. Now we need 30 seconds of footage of your nonprofit of what they're doing with no interviews. So when you're filming this, it's going to be great. For example, if you are doing just kind of some basic service work, have a sign behind you so people can identify who you are. Just kind of makes it a little bit easier. Or if you don't have a sign, make sure it's obvious. Like if you're the food bank, if people are loading food, loading cans, makes it kind of more obvious that way. Now, these only need to be 30 seconds long for the submission. Now, we need these submissions a week from today on September 21st, and you can submit them to promo@kbtx.com. Once again, you can submit them at promo@kbtx.com. We need them by September 21st. And finally, we encourage everyone to connect with us on the Brazos Valley Gives different social media outlets on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. JL has already done, who's running all of our social media accounts, has done an incredible job telling the stories of all of these different nonprofits who are involved with us so far. And if you start posting about donating on Brazos Valley Gives Day, you can go ahead and start using the hashtag BVGives and tagging us on these different social media outlets as well. And like all stories, this one has come to an end, and personally I think it's lived happily ever after. Here are my personal social media accounts and my email if you'd like to get in touch with me after this. I'll be happy to open up the floor to questions if anybody has any. From my understanding, you just need B-roll. We will use the actual "This Is Your News" song that is like traditional "This Is Your News" videos. Oh, the question was, do we need audio, or is it more like B-roll where we put music over it? So yes, you do not need, you just need the B-roll. KBTX will put audio on it, just like we do for the traditional "This Is Your News" videos.
So I'm going to jump in here. One of the questions that has been posted was, how do we edit our nonprofit profile on the BV Gives website? There was a slight glitch this morning which prevented you from going into your giving portal and making changes to your profile, but that has since been fixed. So if you had that issue, it was just this morning, please feel free to log back in and make any changes to your heart's content.
And Charles asked, are Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram still the three main social media platforms, or are there any others that you would recommend? Those are the big three that, honestly, yes, those are the only ones I mainly recommend that you use. They're the powerhouse ones. There's LinkedIn's another one, but for the most part, the main ones that you should be mainly focusing on, and if you just can only handle three, those would be the ones that traditionally everybody is on right now. Dale said, if we create using software on our computer, what video format do you prefer? I think probably, I don't know this for sure, I would email and ask, but off the top of my head, I would think an MP4 would be preferable. If you send that video in, MP4 should be fine. MP4 or MP3. And then Barbara said, do we need to submit the video in a special format like in a YouTube? I would submit it in an MP4 format. Now, if the file is too big to send over email, I recommend uploading it, the link, into the website WeTransfer. I can type, if I can type that in, I'll type it in real quick, WeTransfer.com, and that will give you the ability to send up to, I think, like 2 or 3 megabytes for free over email. And you can put in the email, the promo email in there. Any other questions? One thing that I forgot to kind of mention that I just want to make sure I hit on, when you are bringing in people to tell your story, a way to really kind of also engage your donors is through storytelling. Even though donors are just mainly thought of or giving money, it's a great way to also bring them in as well through kind of using them in these videos or using them in interviews too. It's another great way to kind of energize them as well. Using your staff, they're your boots on the ground people, so they give a different perspective, and so do your volunteers as well. So Tanya asked, will there be another opportunity for the This Is Your News? I am unaware of that right now. This is the only opportunity I know of at this point in time. And it's only, yeah, it's only for Brazos Valley Gives.
So we've had one person ask, will we be able to rewatch this? And by all means, Fallon's PowerPoint as well as a recording of this webinar will be posted to the Brazos Valley Gives website. There is a For Nonprofit section at the very top with drop downs, and it will be within the nonprofit resources section. So you'll find lots of information there. Once that's posted, it'll probably take a couple of days. I'll send out a link so that everyone can go to that. One Carissa question, do we need audio or is it more like B-roll where y'all will put music over it?
So we will just need the B-roll. From my knowledge, KBTX will use the traditional This Is Your News song as the audio. So the audio is not important. Unless you're singing This Is Your News while doing it. That's an idea. I don't know if they're going to use it or not, but, just a fun suggestion. I've seen them use that kind of thing in the past.
All right. And Carol is asking, how long is that promo to be again?
I don't know exactly how long the full entire promo is going to be, but each nonprofit is encouraged to send 30 seconds of video.
And most likely y'all will be taking that and...
Yes, the promotions department at KBTX is going to be cutting and editing that down to make the full promo that is going to be specific for Brazos Valley Gives.
All right. And then Unbound Bryan College Station asks, is there a video editing software you would recommend?
Yes, personally, it depends on how intense you want to go. But I think a great one that I personally like is you can't go wrong with Adobe Premiere. That's my personal favorite. But you don't need to edit any videos for this. KBTX is going to be editing and putting this all together. You just need to film 30 seconds of video on your phone and then just send it on over.
And can you remind us how long that video is supposed to be in minutes?
30 seconds. You only need to be sending 30 seconds of video over. Melissa, you said Google Slides into an MP4. Can you be more specific on what you're asking? Yes, Camtasia is another great software I've used, but I've used Camtasia as well. Camtasia is good. I personally have trained in Premiere. Tanya asked if we can submit a picture instead of a video. You can. I just don't know how they're going to utilize that. It does not need to be one continuous clip. You can put them all together, or you can send a couple as one. And Carissa asked, does it need to be one continuous clip when you send it in? No, you can send a couple as one. It just needs to be like the length of about 30 seconds. Don't send in like probably about like an hour or 1 minute. Just make sure you're kind of being cautious of how much the footage you're sending. All right. Well, what address do we send the video? It is here, I'll put it right here on the screen. It is promo@kbtx.com. All right. Well, if that is all of the questions everybody has, I appreciate everybody listening, and I hope you'll have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, Fallon.
I think we got to end it yet.
Good job.